You know, it's weird. When I started posting these videos up here on YouTube a couple of years ago, I initially was putting videos out on a bunch of boring topics like how to flip a house or how to buy a rental property, stuff like that. But one day I decided to just try something new and I started talking about some of the more wild and interesting real estate stories that are happening all around the world. I mean, any of you guys who have been around for a while, you remember those times where we were always talking about houses like the one or all of these other crazy mega mansions that were being built all over the place, and then these developers who are facing foreclosure and bankruptcy. Well, honestly, I did not expect that we'd still be here all these years later and these same types of stories would be continuing to surface week after week. But there is literally a never-ending string of topics to cover on this channel. Today, we've got another 3 wild ones to dive into. Let's do this. You guys probably remember Edwin Castro. This is the $2 billion Powerball winner from like 6 months ago. Well, Edwin is making headlines again because he just bought another mega mansion in Bel Air. He paid $47 million for this one. Just as a refresher, this was a huge story because when Edwin won this jackpot, $2 billion was one of the biggest jackpots of all time, although he did decide to take the lump sum, which fizzled his winnings down to just under $1 billion. And some tax people have estimated that after he pays his federal and state income taxes, he's going to walk away with somewhere in the $600 million range or so when this is all said and done. Pretty crazy, by the way, that out here in America, you can win $2 billion, but only walk away with $600 million at the end of it. From what I understand, there's other countries out there where you get to keep all of your winnings if you win the lottery. But anyway, he still won a boatload of money and he got to spending it right away, starting with a $25.5 million mansion in the Hollywood Hills. We talked about that house when that all went down. I think he ended up actually with a really good deal on this one, and it's definitely a cool house. But just a few weeks later, Edwin picked up another mansion. This one was $4 million and it was in Altadena, California. A $25 million bachelor pad followed by a $4 million house for your parents. I don't know, I'd say those are two pretty reasonable buys. If I was in his shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. But this past week, Edwin scooped up yet another crazy mansion. This was an off-market deal and one that, like I said earlier, he paid almost $50 million for. You guys might recognize this house, and that's because this is the same home that the celebrity doctor Alex Khadavi built and tried to sell for like $88 million before it eventually flopped at auction and sold to a video game tycoon, Jez San, for just $45.7 million in May of 2022. The place has 7 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, and it's definitely one of those monster, lavish, fully loaded, over-the-top type of properties that we've seen a bunch of built out in this region. A lot of people were critiquing Edwin's spending habits after his first couple of buys, so I'm sure he's gonna get plenty more criticism over this one as well. But let's be real, he's got like $600 million in the bank, so it's not like this house is gonna bankrupt him or anything, even when you account for all the taxes and ongoing maintenance. So I'm sure a lot of you guys remember Mohamed Hadid. He at one time was one of the biggest residential real estate developers in LA, but we haven't heard his name all that much lately. Well, one of his half-built mega mansions that was originally listed 2 years ago for $250 million has since fallen into some serious financial hardship. It was just relisted on the market for sale for $68 million. Talk about a price cut. This place was on track to be Hadid's wildest creation yet. At $250 million, it would have also been the most expensive home ever sold in California. And back then, the rendering showed us the house, which was taking over a huge chunk of the hillside with a long winding driveway that leads up to a several-story home. It was going to have like 80,000 square feet of living space with 19 bedrooms and of course all the bells and whistles. But more recently, this project has just been sitting there vacant, barely built, kind of like a ghost town with only a few retaining walls and dirt roads having been built so far. The Wall Street Journal reported that putting this property back up for sale at $68 million was put on by a bankruptcy trustee, and that proceeds from the sale of this 27-acre site will be used to satisfy Hadid's creditors on the deal. What's crazy though is if you go back and look at the price history, Hadid only paid $2.5 million for this place back in 2012. So that means that he has put about $60 million just into the site work alone at this property. Crazy. The listing description on this one calls the property a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It says the sale includes 2 fully permitted residences that are currently under construction. Then of course the home would have all of Hadid's standard features like a 36-person theater, a Turkish bath, a wine cellar, and a yoga room. I cannot imagine who is going to be bold enough to be willing to pick up where Hadid left off on this project. I mean, that alone would be a pretty crazy undertaking, but you almost have to be even crazier if you're thinking about building a $250 million spec home in this market. I will say though, $68 million for 27 acres of land in this area doesn't seem like a horrible price. Who knows, maybe someone like the guys at Sahara who bought Hadid's other failed project off of Strada Vecchia will be interested in this one as well. I guess we'll see. Every once in a while, you see a new spec home builder in California seem to just kind of come out of the blue and give one of these crazy mega mansions a shot, but unfortunately, when that happens, oftentimes they end up getting burned. Well, that's exactly what happened to the Australian developer Chris Holliday. About a year and a half ago, he came to market with this home at 11870 Ellis Street in Malibu. It's known as the Kaizen home, and the original listing price for this place was $75 million. After a few short months on the market, though, he dropped the price all the way down to $59,995. Then by early 2023, the price continued to drop all the way down to $48 million. It was at this time when Halliday must have realized that a sale was probably not a good option for this house, so he listed the mansion for rent instead at $125,000 per month. It sat on the market for 3 or 4 months as a potential rental before that listing got taken down as well, and that is when he decided to put the place up for sale with Concierge Auctions, the same group who has handled a bunch of these other troubled properties, and the auction house just sold the place for just over $28 million. Now, I know I just threw around a ton of numbers, but in summary, this guy bought a piece of land in Malibu. He built an amazing mega mansion overlooking the ocean and then listed that property for sale for $75 million bucks. Then after years of marketing the place, he only ended up with $28 million. The house has 20,000 square feet with 6 bedrooms and 10 bathrooms. It has a super dramatic entry with a ton of vegetation that leads you up to the front door. There's some wild features throughout, like these backlit fireplace walls and a big fish tank. You can see in basically all these photos that the ocean is just about a rock throw's distance away. It's got really nice architectural and finish details. In my opinion, it was staged really well. And yeah, just as I tab through a handful more of these photos, you guys can see that this place does feel like it was done really nicely. Good choice of finishes. All the rooms look like a nice size. It feels like it should have checked all the boxes. It's hard telling exactly why a house like this doesn't sell anywhere close to that massive asking price that he was originally looking for, but if I had to guess, it either has something to do with the floor plan, which we can't pick up in those photos, or something to do with the exact location. Halliday paid $5.4 million just for the land here about 5 years ago, and I'm gonna guess he's got at least another $20 million into construction cost, which doesn't even factor in the holding costs that he also probably paid along the way. It's a bummer to see somebody put so much work and so many years into something that ultimately ended up probably losing him a little money, but unfortunately in this business, that's just how these deals go sometimes. That's a wrap for this one, but before we go, I just wanted to say a really quick thank you to everybody out there who's just been supporting me in general over all these years. It was really a lot for me when I first started putting these videos out, but nowadays when I see these videos getting views and I see you guys saying that you're having fun with the videos in the comments, or you guys talking to each other about all these crazy topics, I don't know, it just really gives me the motivation to keep going, so just wanted to say thanks. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you back here in a couple of days.